Welcome back to Investing Talk podcast. Today we're focusing on one specific high-growth name in the data security space, Rubric. The big question we're tackling, based on the material you shared, is really, is Rubric a good time to buy right now? We've looked at the recent financials, market trends, upcoming catalysts, trying to find an answer for you. And before we really get into this analysis, please remember to subscribe, like, and comment. We genuinely love hearing your thoughts. And hey, if there's another company you want us to look into, just leave a comment below.
That's right. And Rubric is fascinating because it sits right at that critical intersection of cybersecurity and cloud management. Understanding their recent shift, particularly towards cash flow positivity and their really aggressive product roadmap, is absolutely key to judging the valuation and, well, the timing for you.
Okay, let's unpack this material then. First things first, we need to sort of establish the playing field. What does Rubric actually do? And, why should investors see them as maybe different from the older players in data backup?
Sure. So Rubric operates in a very competitive space data security, backup, cloud data management. They're directly up against established names like Commvault, Veritas, but also more modern rivals like Cohesity and Veeam. It's crowded. But the core insight we pulled from your sources is really about their architecture. Rubric's edge seems to be its cloud-native software as a service SaaS architecture. It was built specifically for modern multi-cloud setups, and crucially, they focus on a zero-trust data security model. That's a big differentiator compared to legacy systems designed before ransomware became such a huge everyday threat.
Right, so it's not just about backing up data. It's making sure the backups themselves are secure, usable immediately, no matter where the data actually lives, AWS, Google Cloud, wherever. That does sound like a powerful edge, especially when you add in those big partnerships they have with Microsoft, AWS, and Google Cloud.
Exactly. And because getting this right requires deep integration, the sources really highlight the high switching costs. Once a customer is embedded in Rubric's system, it's pretty sticky. They tend to stay.
Okay, makes sense. So let's pivot from the business model to the bottom line. Are they still in that kind of growth at all costs phase, or are we starting to see a more mature financial picture emerging?
Well, that shift is really the core of the Rubric story right now. If you look at fiscal year 2025, that ended January 31st, 2025 annual revenue was $831 million. Good growth, solid. However, like a lot of high-growth size companies, they were not GAAP profitable. They reported a net loss of about $967 million. This just confirms they're still investing heavily in R&D and sales, trying to grab market share aggressively.
Yep. That gross margin was strong, though, around 75%. That definitely shows the
Yeah.
potential profitability of the core service. But yeah, those operating costs were significant. But here's where the material gets really interesting. Those Q2 fiscal 26 results that came out September 9th, 2025.
We definitely saw an acceleration there. Total revenue jumped 51% year over year, reaching almost $310 million. And subscription annual recurring revenue, ARR, that grew 36% year over year, hitting $1.25 billion. That growth acceleration is impressive, yeah, but it's actually not the biggest headline from that quarter.
Right. The real inflection point, maybe the aha moment for investors looking at this, was the cash flow. Rubric's free cash flow actually turned positive at $57.5 million for Q2, and the GAAP net loss per share, it narrowed quite a bit.
That positive free cash flow, it's potentially transformative for a company at this stage. Management is officially targeting free cash flow break-even for the full fiscal year 2027. And, well, this recent quarter suggests they might even be ahead of schedule.
Okay, wait though. A positive quarterly FCF is great, but like you said, they're still running significant GAAP net losses overall. Should we really be celebrating this quarterly number, or could it just be, timing, maybe collecting receivables early or pushing out some spending? What did the sources say about how sustainable that positive FCF might be?
That's a really crucial question. The analysis suggests that while, yes, quarterly FCF can definitely fluctuate, this particular positive result seems to validate management's execution. They seem to be successfully controlling sales and marketing costs while still keeping that strong revenue growth going. And the fact that the GAAP loss per share is consistently narrowing suggests operating leverage is starting to kick in. This supports the view analysts seem to have that Rubric will be nearing a true break-even, profitability-wise, probably by the end of calendar 2027.
And it looks like they have the financial runway to actually execute that plan. Looking at their balance sheet from January 2025, they had strong cash reserves, about $789 million, against relatively modest long-term debt of $247 million. That cash cushion Provides a pretty substantial buffer to cover the kind of negative operating cash flow we saw back in fiscal 25.
Yeah, that strong balance sheet cash position is almost certainly why the market is bidding the stock up near its all-time highs, which leads us nicely into the price action, doesn't it?
Precisely. Let's look at the market action. The stock price is trading pretty hot, between $69 and $76 in September 2025. With those improving financials supporting it, what are the technical indicators telling us about momentum at these kinds of levels?
Well, the price action definitely confirms that strong fundamental momentum. The stock's in a confirmed uptrend, trading, healthily above both its 50-day and 200-day moving averages. That usually signals institutional interest and belief in the longer-term trend. However, if you're looking for an entry point right now, there are some cautionary signals flashing. The relative strength index, the RSI, is sitting up there in the 62 to 68 range. Now, for those tracking momentum, an RSI above 70 often signals overbought. So this reading suggests that while momentum is strong, the stock is approaching a level where maybe short-term buyers could get exhausted. It hints at a consolidation phase or even a short-term pullback might be due.
And the MCD indicator kind of backs up that warning, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. The MACD moving average convergence divergence, it's still technically bullish, but it is showing weakening momentum. It suggests the speed of that recent rally, which was likely driven by those strong Q2 results, is starting to slow down. And high volatility is definitely a factor here too. The beta is over 1.4 versus the S&P 500. Pretty typical for a recent high growth name, but you need to be ready for some sharp moves, up or down.
Okay, so the technicians are maybe waving a little yellow flag, suggesting some caution. But what about the analysts on the street? What stands out in their coverage? And maybe more critically, what are the company insiders actually doing with their shares?
Well, on the analyst side, Oppenheimer reiterated a very bullish outperform rating just in mid-September 2025. They actually raised their price target to $82, pointing to that sustained growth and the improving financial profile. So that's strong external validation. But, and this is a significant but, what raises an important question is the countersignal you see from insider activity. Multiple executives filed to sell shares in September 2025, right around that $74 per share mark. Now, we need to be a bit nuanced here. Many of these sales were attributed to something called 10b5-1 plans, or they were sold to cover transactions for tax expenses.
Can you help us unpack that nuance a bit?
No,
What
sure.
exactly is a 10b5-1 plan, and how does that change how we should interpret those insider sales?
Sure, a 10b5-1 plan is basically a pre-scheduled trading plan. Executives set it up well in advance to sell shares at specific predetermined times or price levels. The idea is it allows them to sell shares without facing accusations of trading on, fresh inside information they just received. So it means the selling might just be routine diversification, managing their portfolio, or handling tax bills, rather than signaling a lack of confidence in the company's future prospects. But here's the crucial part. The sources also note there has been no open market buying reported by insiders. None.
Right. And that lack of any open market buying, even with the stock hitting new highs and all this positive momentum, that feels like a major point of tension for investors, doesn't it? How do we square that apparent lack of insider conviction with Oppenheimer's bullish $82 target? It suggests there's maybe a real debate happening about whether the stock is fully priced right now.
Exactly. It could indicate a strong belief by analysts in the company's ability to hit future milestones, absolutely. But maybe it also suggests a belief by insiders that the current price already reflects the execution they've achieved so far. It's a tricky signal.
Okay, so let's look ahead then. What could break that tension? What's going to drive the stock in the short and intermediate term? What are the key catalysts we should be watching?
The primary driver, it seems, is their big push into AI security. They've been incredibly aggressive here. Back in July 2025, they acquired Predabase to boost their AI operations capabilities. They also launched something called the Agent Rewind solution. Think of it like a rollback system for unwanted AI actions. That sounds like a highly valuable tool for enterprises today. And just recently, in September, they announced a key integration with CrowdStrike's Falcon Next-Gen identity security. All these moves really position them right at the forefront of where the next wave of cybersecurity spending is likely headed.
Okay, and looking ahead more immediately, key short-term catalysts definitely include the Q3 fiscal 26 earnings report, which should be out in early December 2025. Given that Q2 momentum, another significant beat there could be huge for the stock. We also have the U.S. ETF rebalancing period coming up in October. That could introduce some technical volatility. as funds adjust their holdings based on recent performance. Just something to be aware of.
And longer term, the big things are hitting that free cash flow positivity target for fiscal 27 and
Hmm.
just continuing to execute on that product roadmap, especially with the AI-driven security stuff. And, as always happens in this sector, there are persistent rumors about potential M&A interest. Could a larger cybersecurity player look to acquire Rubrik to consolidate the cloud data security market? It's always a possibility.
Right. But to balance the picture, let's quickly dive into the specific risks highlighted in the sources, because let's be clear, this isn't a guaranteed win by any means.
No, absolutely not. The fact that they're still posting net losses, not being JAP profitable yet, that remains a core risk. If those losses continue for longer than the market expects, it puts immediate pressure on their valuation, which, let's face it, relies heavily on future growth and eventual profitability. Secondly, there's a very significant customer concentration risk that you really need to be aware of. The sources state that roughly 34% of their total revenue comes from just their top 10 customers. That's a massive systemic risk. If even one or two of those really large enterprise clients decide to switch, maybe build their own solution, or just move to a competitor, it could dramatically impact Rubrik's financial guidance and stability.
Wow, yeah, that kind of concentration means investors really need to keep a close eye on enterprise adoption rates and, crucially, customer retention metrics.
Absolutely essential. And finally, we noted the high shareholder dilution risk. This comes from ongoing stock-based compensation, which is pretty common in high-growth tech, but it does increase the share count over time and also the potential for secondary stock offerings down the road.
Okay, so trying to synthesize all of this, the strong growth, that clear path towards profitability, the technical caution flags, the insider selling tension, what does it all mean for our initial question? Is now actually a good time to buy Rubric?
Well, the sources, when you combine all these factors, give it an overall rating of about 6.5 out of 10. The pros are definitely compelling. Really strong revenue growth, that critical cloud-native architecture, and clear momentum towards sustainable positive cash flow. But the cons are also significant. Those ongoing operating losses, the frankly red flag of high insider selling with zero insider buying, and the high inherent volatility of the stock.
So essentially, it sounds like the story of a company that's executing really well, perhaps even flawlessly lately, but the market might already be rewarding that execution with a premium price, a price that maybe leaves little room for any missteps.
That's a good way to put it. The final summary suggests this stock is probably best suited for intermediate-term growth investors. We're talking people with maybe a 12 to 24-month horizon who can tolerate that volatility while they wait for the company to fully achieve sustained gap profitability. Short-term traders, they should probably expect sharp swings and might find cleaner entry points perhaps after those December earnings results come out.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you, the listener, to consider. We've got this positive turn in free cash flow and these aggressive new product releases, particularly in AI security. On the other hand, we have this persistent high volume of insider sales, creating maybe a sentiment challenge. Which factor do you think will ultimately have a greater impact on Rubrik's stock price over the next year? Is it going to be the actual adoption metrics and success of those new AI products, or is it the ongoing sentiment overhang from all that insider selling?
That tension really is the central narrative right now. And we'd encourage you to keep a close eye on the 13F filings coming out in November. Tracking that institutional conviction, seeing how the big money is reacting to Q2 and the insider activity will be very telling.
Thank you for joining us for this analysis of the source material on Rubrik. We definitely look forward to digging into your next request soon.